Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Connected on Relay FM. Today is Wednesday, September 17th. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, Smile Software's PDF Pen Scan Plus, and Iconic, the world's greatest book on Apple product design. I'm your host, Stephen Hackett, and I am joined this week by Mr. Federico Viticci.
Hey, Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's just us.
Yeah, because our friend Mike is in Italy, and he decided to not visit me. He's in my same country, but for some reason he doesn't want to see me. So,
is he far away from you?
Yeah.
No,
I get. Yeah, he's like in another completely different part of Italy.
Different part,
like several hours apart. And I totally understand because the part that he's in right now is much better than where I live. And I saw the photos and the updates that he's sending us. He's having a good time. And the weather seems to be nice where he is right now. So I'm kind of jealous, because I actually never been to Sicily where Mike is. Yeah,
you should just go crash his vacation.
Yeah, maybe on the day that iOS 8 comes out. It seems like a good idea to just leave my house and go to see Mike.
See, you've already broke it. You broke the illusion of what day we're actually recording. So we're actually recording on Monday, the 15th, but we're pretending it's Wednesday and that iOS 8's already out, so we can talk about all these things. Mike and I didn't plan this very well, although I will say that my baby was due this week before Mike booked his vacation. But we wanted to record a couple days early in case it was only Federico was available.
Yeah, I should probably have a monologue about iOS 8 apps and the App Store. Just me rambling into a microphone.
Yeah, you're like I don't know where the sponsor reads are. I just put this MP3 on Twitter. The show's out.
I'm just gonna do it live and see what happens.
Just do it live, yeah. So well, I'm glad you're here. You're the best person to talk to about all this. But we have a little bit of follow-up first.
Yes.
So over the last week or so, lots of questions and kind of more conversations obviously have happened around the Apple Watch. And we sort of glossed over some of this, so I kind of wanted just to raise these as like we still have questions about things like battery life. Pogue says it's water resistant, which Apple sort of hinted at, but really didn't say. We had a question on Twitter of, do people think it will get warm? I don't know. What do you think about that one? Do you think it would be weird if it got warm?
Yeah, I thought about that. That would be strange because I'm used to, like, a watch is something that is usually cold, right? I mean, I guess it gets warmer as you wear a watch.
Yeah, but it's not warmer than you are.
Yeah.
Like it's not warmer than the ambient temperature.
And instead...
That'd be weird.
Because we don't even know what the battery looks like on this watch, right? We have no idea about the inside.
It's like 4 hours. That'd be awful.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's strange to think about it. And especially, because they have these sensors on your wrists. So I don't know.
Yeah.
For the water resistant part, I guess that it's different from... because waterproof is one thing and water resistant is another.
Right.
So
and most watches, will be water resistant to a certain level, but once you're past that, the water pressure's, the pressure is too great, and I would hope at the very least that it's water resistant. I don't want to go swimming with it, but if you go for a run and get caught in the rain, you don't want your $400 watch to die.
Yeah, I was talking about this with a friend the other night, and he asked me, so what happens if I go for a run and it starts raining and Apple says that the Apple Watch is water resistant, but it gets some damage, and then I go to the Apple Store and I gotta tell the Apple Store employees that it's not my fault that I didn't swim with my watch. I just went running. Like, how do I prove that it was just raining? And that's an interesting question because when this thing goes on sale, there are different mechanics for selling a watch than selling an iPhone or a Mac inside the Apple Store. So
you want to go try it on. Like this thing can't be tethered to a big wooden table like an iPhone is.
Yeah.
I don't remember what podcast. I've listened to a lot of shows over the last couple of days, and someone was like, I want to I want to put the 5.5 inch phone in my pocket, but I know it's going to be like tethered to the Apple Store desk, because of their security restrictions. And, like you're jamming it in your pocket, you're going to get tased by the security guy. But buying a watch is, for a lot of people, it's, to use Apple's word, is an intimate experience. You go to the store, you try it on. If it's a nice watch, you might take somebody with you, right? Like,
Yeah.
I bought my watch online. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted, but I still sent the link to my wife, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?"
Mm-hmm.
It's not like buying an iMac. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, in some stores, there's also mirrors to see how the watch fits you with your overall style. And so, can you imagine people checking themselves out in the mirror inside an Apple store?
Yeah, that'd be really strange.
Yeah.
But there was talk when they've been hiring all these fashion people, and that's come up of even Apple's new senior vice president of retail. She has a bit of a fashion background. Am I making that up? Is that right?
No, she used to be the CEO of Burberry.
That's right.
Yep.
So it is interesting. They've been building this up over the last little while, and curious to see what happens.
I was also thinking about, we saw 64 apps for the Apple Watch, and Apple said that there's going to be this new piece of technology called WatchKit to let developers create apps for the watch. And the problem is that they didn't give other details about this WatchKit SDK. We didn't even know if it's an actual SDK, because on the Apple website, I saw a screenshot from a lot of people that basically shared this little message that said third-party apps for the Apple Watch are coming out later next year. So that would be after WWDC 2015. And
right, so it could launch without third-party apps, potentially.
And maybe,
which is weird.
Yeah, it's gonna be strange, especially because Apple has, announced this watch with all these apps, and then the watch comes out without the apps. That'd be strange. Maybe there's going to be initial partners or something, and maybe Apple announces a full SDK at WWDC next year. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll be there. You should come this year.
Yeah,
or
I know.
Next year.
Next year, yeah. There was also a link that I wanted to include in the show notes. So, which people, Stephen, can find where?
On the internet.
Yeah, on the web?
On the internet. Relay.fm/connected/5.
That's right. So there was a link by Greg Pierce, the drafts and terminology developer at Agile Tortoise. And he was arguing that it may be possible that WatchKit-based apps are going to be like extensions in iOS 8. They are bundles. They are sold inside an app on the iPhone and iPad App Store, and he speculates that maybe watch apps are going to be extensions of an app that you buy on your phone, and then it basically gets transferred to the watch. I don't know. It's a possibility, and we don't know much right now. So.
I mean, at some point you would think code is running directly on the watch, but what's that relationship? If it is an extension, does that reside on the watch? Can it do anything without the app being present? There's a lot of questions for me, at least, around what does this thing look like? What does it do when the iPhone is not present? And, I would say over the last week, Federico, my opinion of the watch has cooled a little bit. And I think a lot of it I keep coming back to of this is a 1.0. And I'm normally not that guy. I bought an iPad on launch day, but I can't help but think of see this watch and there are a lot of great things about it. There's a whole lot of questions. And if Apple doesn't have good answers for these questions right now, I would hope that those questions do have good answers 2, 3, 5 years from now. Yeah. And so Apple always plays a long game, but I do wonder if that's going to hurt them in this case, because we've seen with the iPhone very clearly that if you wait a little while, you get what you want. And I don't know if that's going to be a factor here or not.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much you value the 12 months that you spend with an Apple device. I mean, because obviously if you waited 2 or 3 years, you would have skipped the original iPhone, the iPhone 3G and the 3GS, and you would have gotten directly the iPhone 4, which was a much better phone. But then again, you wouldn't have enjoyed the iPhone for 3 years. So obviously, I keep calling it the iWatch. The Apple Watch 3 is going to be much better. I mean, if this product is successful for Apple, it's going to be much better than the Apple Watch 1. But you gotta wait 3 years for that.
I hope they name them with numbers, but I hope they use Roman numerals.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that happening,
yeah,
right? Like it's like fancy. I rewatched, the keynote for last week's show, and it hit me again, like how sort of over the top the not the Johnny Ive video, but like the 90-second like showing the watch for the first time. It's like,
oh yeah,
there's literally like the sun coming over the Earth.
I want to know the song
station.
of that video. I spent
good.
I spent the other night 30 minutes looking for that song on Shazam and all the other, what's the name, Soundhound. And I ran a search on Twitter, and I saw other people asking the same question because it's really good music. So
Apple likes to control the hardware, the software,
and the music
services, and the music.
Yeah.
Is it a U2 song? No one listened to that.
Yeah.
That should be in our follow-up as well. So did you see this where... there's a new article. I'll put it in our chat, Federico. There's a new article in the K-Base.
Yeah, your friend.
Imagine. My friend. Remove iTunes gift album Songs of Innocence from iTunes Music Library. Apple has a special website that if you go to and sign in with your account, you can remove the new U2 album from your library.
This is crazy. So I've been following, just not too carefully. So Apple was giving away for free the new U2 album until someday in October. And why are people upset?
Because people hate U2. I don't...
So is the album automatically given to you? Or
it's in my iTunes library right now.
Have you clicked download on iTunes?
No. So I use iTunes Match. So I think even if you don't use iTunes Match, it shows up as available but not downloaded. So you have to go in and actually download it.
Oh, I have the album too. You're right. Oh, I see.
But it's nice, right? So the thing is, like, I don't really care for U2, but I don't hate them so much that I'm going to like blast this out of my music library. Like, I have other U2 stuff in there that I don't listen to. It's fine.
And people are upset because Apple put a U2 album for free in their iTunes libraries.
Yeah, it's like Bono came into your house and stole your family.
Yeah.
No, it's not like that. It's not like that at all, Federico.
Yeah, this is strange.
It is weird. But if you have it and you want to get rid of it, go click that link in the show notes, and you can banish U2 from your
life,
from your life, from existence.
Stephen, I had one last point that I forgot to mention about the watch and watch kit. If the theory of Apple Watch apps being like extensions, they're bundled inside iPhone apps is true, I think that Apple should consider giving developers ways to monetize extensions and widgets through in-app purchases. Because right now, as far as I know, there is no official way to block extensions and widgets and keyboards through in-app purchases. Because a lot of developers would like to let customers unlock these features as extras, basically as paid content. And right now, I don't think there's an official way that Apple likes. And if the theory of WatchKit being, based on the same system is true, next year developers will find themselves in the situation of we have an iPhone app and then we're gonna bundle all these extra features for free. So we have an extension, we have a widget, we have a keyboard, and we have a watch app. And I think that Apple should allow developers to easily monetize this kind of extra functionality. And so, as I said, this is all speculation. So, but it's a point that I wanted to bring up because maybe next year we can find a link to this episode again and say that we had a prediction. So
that's right, year-long follow-up.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up follow-up with this. I know Mike ordered a 6 Plus, 64 gig Space Gray. I ordered the 6. You still can't order, right?
Yeah, I cannot order, and there was a press release from Apple about the pre-orders. They people bought over 4 million iPhones in 24 hours, and they confirmed the official Italian release date on September 26th. But I'm still not sure about which model to get, because since last episode I kind of changed my mind, because I saw all the the paper models to kind of see the size of the iPhone 6 Plus.
Meaning you bought some ink for your printer?
I kept touching my MacBook screen with my hand to get an idea. No, actually this time, because I saw a photo on Twitter about the iPhone 6 Plus being as big as the PS Vita, I tried to put the PS Vita on my cheek and see, how silly would I look? And it wasn't pretty huge. So I think I'm going to go with the iPhone 6 after all.
Yeah, I spent some time this weekend. It was a HTC phone that was right at 5.5 inches that my brother-in-law bought, and it's big. And I actually was wearing jeans, and I put it in my pocket. I was like, I'm not sure, and I'm not wearing girly jeans, but this is big. I definitely can't imagine if my pockets were any smaller that this would work. And it really didn't work. It was at the very top of the pocket, and I felt weird sitting down. I think it will definitely be something that some people will like, but I feel confident that I made the right choice. And I will know on Friday, because it's a super first world problem, but I live in a city where FedEx is based, and so Apple ships things from Memphis. And so my phone, I never saw the China Anchorage, the whole thing. It was shipped from Memphis, and that's just now it has a status of holding for release for the 19th. So I could drive across town and get my phone, but they won't let me in. It's hard.
What I noticed about the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus is the people's reactions to the announcement. A couple of friends of mine asked me about, is Apple doing doing this to, because Samsung is being so successful with huge phones. And I don't have a good answer for that, because it's Tim Cook said that with the larger screens, they can entice more people to switch from Android to iOS, and that's kind of obvious when you think about it. There's, even if you watch the keynote, there was no practical examples of why a bigger screen is better. There were numbers, right? There were a lot more pixels on the screen. This is a great display, and we can have better colors. But they simply said that it's a larger screen. They didn't have a fancy video showing why a bigger screen is better in everyday life. It's just they tend to assume that bigger is better, and even the Apple website. The tagline for the iPhone 6 is bigger than bigger. I don't even know what that means.
I don't.
And
it's
So Apple is simply going for the bigger screen because that's what people want. And I think my friends have a point when they say, they're doing this because Samsung. That's the reason.
Because that's what Apple's marketing said before Phil Schiller.
Because Samsung, yeah.
Did you see this? If you go to the iPhone 6 page and you go to displays, so there's apparently these things have two modes where you can toggle in between standard view or zoom view, which is the same. On the home screen, it's the same number of icons, but they're all bigger, so the space between them. Which I think is really interesting. I would want standard so I can see more emails on one screen, but Zoom View I assume would let me have the same number of emails, but that I used to have, but in a bigger format. I think that's a really nice feature. I think a lot of people are going to want a bigger phone, assuming the text will be bigger, and that's not true. It's that you get more on the screen. But having a setting to say, I do want to show more on the display, bigger. I think that's a big win.
So what happens if you enable the zoom mode and then you slide dynamic type all the way to the right? do you end up with like one word on the screen at a time?
I mean, maybe there's a huge. I mean, probably not that exaggerated, but from an accessibility standpoint, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
I guess
even,
sorry, I guess it kind of confirms that, with the new iOS 7 design, it's much easier for apps to scale to different sizes because many of them are not using photorealistic, textures and graphics. Most of them are just, vector-based applications from a graphical standpoint, at least, that don't even use icons. And by icons, I mean graphic files anymore. And it's much easier for these apps, which are color-based. They don't have many graphical resources to scale across different, screen sizes and even layouts. And this is also a point that I wanted to mention with iOS 8 extensions later. But I think that from this point of view, the redesign of last year is a big win in terms of, enabling apps to change to different sizes and devices and orientations more easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Drawing, graphic heavy textures is hard, but if all your things are text or even like Marco is doing mostly
code
programmatic drawing.
Yeah.
So he actually is not using icons, but he's creating the icon in code. That's a lot more flexible. And, if you can use something like a vector as opposed to like this like PNG of like stitched leather, you can do a lot more easily. And I think you're absolutely right. Some of the stuff they're doing now would not have been possible in any easy way with the old design of iOS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Stephen,
let's talk about our friends at Squarespace.
Yes.
Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website, portfolio, or online store. For a free trial and 10% off, visit squarespace.com and enter the offer code WORLD at checkout. A better web starts with your website. Now, Squarespace has beautiful award-winning templates, but you can actually create custom CSS that overrides their controls. You can throw in custom images. If you go to 512 pixels, it runs on Squarespace. I have a ton of custom CSS. I can just fine-tune exactly what I want very easily. They have Typekit and Google Fonts right out of the box. A lot of platforms you have to go buy a Typekit account. All that's baked into Squarespace. But what's really great is that you can dig into the code beyond just CSS. You can easily inject custom code into the header or footer, even on a per-page basis. So I actually have Node.js running on my Squarespace site to do some custom ordering on a page. And it's super easy to do. I just drop it in and hit save. You can do 301 and 302 redirects very easily. Yeah, Squarespace is a powerful tool that is much more than just a pretty face. These templates are great, but you can go in and customize them and do really just what you want to do with custom CSS, Typekit, and more. Like I said, for a free trial and 10% off, head over to squarespace.com and use the offer code WORLD at checkout. It tells them you came from us, and you can enjoy a little bit of extra change in your pocket. So thank you to Squarespace for supporting Connected and all of Relay FM. I had this great idea, Federico, that we would talk about the Tim Cook interview on Charlie Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And then today you were like, oh, I can't watch it because my link was on Hulu. Part 1 has been recorded. Part 2 will be released, but after we record, but before the show comes out. So we can't really talk about part 2 today. But since you didn't see it, I just wanted to blast through this and kind of see if you had any thoughts on it.
Sure.
Anytime you see Tim Cook or really any CEO or any executive be interviewed, there's always that marketing speak that happens. And so a lot of Tim's early answers to things are straight out from the keynote, right? Okay, you're just repeating your line. But as the interview went on, it really became really interesting. And one of the first things he said that was interesting was about IBM, Apple's partnership with them. And he says, Apple is changing how people work after transforming the consumer space. Which I hadn't really thought about that way. Apple definitely has transformed consumer electronics, but now they're getting about changing the way people work. Of course, getting the iPad into enterprise. Federico, obviously, I thought about you because you famously do a lot of work on your iPad Mini. You run a successful website and do podcasts from it. Does that when Apple says that, does that get you excited about the future?
Does
of the
that
iPad?
make me an enterprise? That's a real question.
I think you are an enterprise. Yes.
No, that's a great point. Definitely Apple has changed the way that the consumer space. So many different behaviors and so many different habits we have today that you don't need to go back 20 years ago to see a different lifestyle and ways to interact with technology. You just need to go back 7 years ago and even 6 years ago because the iPhone was only available in the US. So many things are different today, and not just the way that people communicate, but the way that people take photos or listen to music. And the potential for changing the way that people work, in an office environment, that's huge because millions, and I wouldn't say billions because I'm not sure, but millions of people are still working with old Windows PCs, and they hate their work PC. And in fact, they are trying to bring their own devices to the office space because they profoundly despise the hardware and software that's being given to them. And so the potential there is huge. And I'm curious to see I almost had forgotten about this IBM announcement. Honestly, I'm curious to see what Apple does. If it's about software, if it's about, there's rumors about a bigger iPad. So maybe there could be, new specialized hardware for the enterprise. I don't know.
Yeah. They've talked some about that, how, IBM can look at like a whole verticals of, we can look at banking from the teller all the way up to the executive and like make apps and services to fit all those needs. But what you said about the consumerization is really interesting. And obviously the Beats acquisition comes up, and, Cook says it's about talent. The headphone brand needed international support. But he said what really made it for them on the Beats audio app was the human-powered curation, which is exactly what you had said months ago was the difference. Yeah. And I mean, so Tim Cook said this, but if you close your eyes, like it could come from Federico Petiti's. Beats made me feel different. The sequence of songs you listen to affects the way you feel. Like that, there's been some joking about, or not really joking, but like the idea of like music being the heart of Apple, and then like the weird Bono thing we just talked about. But like you hear that quote and it's like, yeah, like that's still true in Cupertino that Cook like listened to this playlist, and I'm assuming that this is a real story, but that he had this experience with this music, and that like set off a chain reaction that ended up in like Dr. Dre working for Tim Cook. you know?
Yeah, I mean, because when there were rumors about Apple buying Beats, if most people had paid attention to Beats music, it would have been obvious, frankly, that it was the music streaming service that Apple was looking for. But it's just that people, especially in the tech press, they like to make fun of Beats because it was the headphone company with the rapper and that kind of stuff. But the Beats music product was really, really strong. And now it makes perfect sense, people say. But, a few months ago, they were making jokes about Dr. Dre and, that kind of stuff.
It does make me wonder how long we see until Beats becomes a little more built into something. And, I don't think they're going to like get rid of Beats Audio and take the guts of it and put it in iTunes Radio. But like Apple has two streaming services. They have iTunes Radio, which is, much more like Pandora, and then Beats. And like, maybe it's a regulatory thing that, I don't know, but it seems like you got to do something with that, besides like have Eddie Q like joke about buying a set of Beats headphones during his Apple Pay demo. Like it's at some point Beats has to move closer into the fold. And, I think when that starts happening, it's going to get really interesting to see what Apple does. Clearly the iTunes brand has equity, but it's aging. And I would say every day that passes, people sort of like scoff at iTunes more and more just as a brand. Beats does not have that problem. Beats has a very strong brand. And so what does Apple do with those two things? And if they don't do it right, it could be really weird. So when that starts happening, I'm going to be really interested to see where it ends up.
I mean, you got to wonder why iTunes Radio is still limited to the US and Canada. There's got to be a reason. I mean, it's been more than a year now. And I think that iTunes Radio is the one that will go away. And there will be...
I think so.
There will be a radio feature in Beats Music. I think it's more likely.
Yeah. Because it's weird to me that iTunes Radio is in the music app on iOS. It's like, here's all of my music, and then one tab has basically Apple Pandora. I'm just kind of scanning this. One thing so they talk about competition, and Tim basically says that Google is their competition and that they, quote, enable Samsung and others. And he's pretty dismissive of Amazon and the Fire Phone, as you might expect.
Yeah, I saw the quote about Amazon made a phone, and you don't see that in a lot of places.
Yeah. It's like, dang.
Yeah, I just saw the quote, and that was awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. He did talks about when Steve Jobs hired him, and I really hadn't heard much about this. I knew that he was at Compaq before, but again, going back to this consumer technology thing, basically Tim says, Steve laid out his vision about going into the consumer market when everybody else was leaving it. This is like 1998. This is, they interviewed before the iMac was introduced. So like Jobs apparently told Tim Cook about the iMac, and that's what did it. It was like consumer technology can make an impact, even though everyone else is doing the enterprise. He felt like Apple, like Jobs' plan to go after consumers in the home market made sense. And of course, like in hindsight, like has any executive ever made such a good decision as Tim Cook deciding to join a dying Apple in 1997? Which I'm sure was crazy. He even says, he was like, no one in my life told me this was a good idea. And I did it anyways.
Yeah. I mean, that must have been crazy.
Yeah. I guess like you call your parents, you're like, yeah, like I got a new job. Oh, where is it? At Apple. Isn't Apple like 90 days from bankruptcy?
I guess it'd be like if today I called my parents all excited and I told them, hey, I'm joining BlackBerry.
Yeah, exactly the same feeling.
That'd be weird.
Yeah. Good luck with that. They probably won't let you podcast about Apple anymore.
Probably.
I think I have a lot more notes, but I think those are, to me at least, sort of the high points on the Tim Cook interview. So part 1 will be in the show notes. Part 2 will be out by the time you listen to this. I think it's great. I think it's a more open Apple, even though this thing felt very guarded at times. He makes a joke that we're working on their products we're working on that haven't even been rumored yet, which is sort of funny.
Oh, what could it be?
I don't know.
Like an Apple
What if we
car?
rumor about it first? I hope it's not a car. I don't think it's a car.
I hope it's a fashion line, like
a T-shirt,
the Apple trousers, the Apple shoes, and like the Apple necklace, so you can go around and you look like an Apple mannequin.
Jackpot.
Yeah.
There's a down the street from my office. There's an office building where the first floor has been emptied out. It used to be a clothing store though, and now it's just full of like naked, bright white mannequins that are just like lined up against the back wall. No. So like you drive by and you kind of see it out of the corner of your eye and you kind of jump. Like you're like, they're just watching and waiting for Tim Cook to dress them, I guess.
Yes.
This episode of Connected is also sponsored by PDF Pen Scan Plus, an app that offers scanning and OCR directly from your iPhone or iPad camera. You can take images of multiple pages effortlessly, and with post-processing, you can edit those images, you can crop them, you can tighten up the brightness or contrast. PDF Pen Scan Plus can also scan receipts and custom paper sizes. And with version 1.4, Smile has added the ability to upload scans directly to Dropbox or PDF Pen's iCloud storage. PDF Pen is also on the Mac, so you can scan on your iPhone, open it on the Mac, and see your files. Version 1.4 also remembers the last folder used for import and export and allows you to export multiple documents at once, making batch scanning easier than ever. You can blast through a stack of receipts quickly, exporting them to Dropbox or iCloud for storage and availability on your other devices. PDFpen Scan Plus can name files by date automatically, and with OCR, the contents of your documents are easily searchable later. PDFpen Scan Plus overlays a preview of its OCR text, and this thing is super accurate, more accurate than ever. PDFpen Scan Plus is a universal iOS app. It works on both your iPhone and your iPad, and it's available on the iOS App Store. You can learn more by visiting smilesoftware.com/connected. And you really should check it out. If you've got me, like having a business, I scan receipts all the time with this and have them available to me. So I can send them to my accountant if I need to. Really a great thing. Like, yeah, always have your phone on you. I, for one, Federico, don't carry a scanner around with me, but I always have my phone with me. And so Smile Software's got a great tool here. You guys should go check it out, smilesoftware.com/connected. So our plan is to kind of walk through some of the high-level features and things that we have enjoyed the developers are doing with it. So with some betas and some apps that are out today.
Some?
All of them. Yeah, you sent me a screenshot of your to-do list of app reviews, and it's sketchy. A lot of these app reviews are published now, or and will be in the show notes. But I will say before we jump in, the more I've spent time with it, I've been running iOS 8 for maybe a month now, and the more I spend time with it, the more I'm impressed with the fact that Apple went really back to the basics with this. That they looked at, these limitations that iOS 8 lifts are the very limitations that defined the iOS experience for a long time. And it really seems like very few things were considered sacred. That now, you don't have to hack around the edges with URL schemes. You can just go in, use an extension, and it's supported by Apple and smiled upon, and it breaks apps out of these siloed boxes they've always been in. Now they're still secure in their sort of data silos, but in working with this every day, iOS 8 feels a lot more powerful than its predecessors.
Yeah, and it's not just about, the URL schemes and the workflows and the scripts. It's so many other areas of the OS have been completely reimagined. I'm thinking of, having image editing extensions in the Photos app. You don't have to create duplicate photos anymore. You don't have to open in, to take a photo and open into another app and maybe apply a filter and some cropping into that app and then saving back to the camera roll. You can just go to the Photos app and run a photo extension, and you can just edit there with the custom interface. And I know there's a Camera Plus update that added, aside from manual controls, a photo extension to enjoy the Camera Plus filters into the Photos app. And then there's the keyboards, and there's the the document providers. It's just so many. Like you said, nothing was sacred for Apple, because they've been changing all the stuff that we used to say. Yeah, iOS is very limited in this aspect. They have been changed, and for me, it's been difficult, to consider iOS 8 in all of its aspects and features, because more than ever, I think that iOS 8 depends on third-party apps. So if you don't have access to third-party apps during the beta process of iOS 8, it's very difficult to understand the potential and the practical benefits of these features. Because yes, you can go to the Apple website and you can read the documents, but an actual app that you can use gives another completely different picture. So on the one hand, I needed to have access to real apps to understand the potential of iOS 8. Because on the other hand, there was Apple that didn't provide any examples of this stuff, and this is a nice contrast, between the stuff that third-party developers are doing on iOS 8 and the fact that Apple doesn't even have an extension for mail, or you cannot attach a document into a mail message from iCloud Drive, and at least in the beta, there was no, Apple didn't say, hey, here's a beta of Pages. There's an extension. Go test this. There was no example from Apple, probably because they wanted developers to experiment. And the result is that we're seeing today all these third-party apps that are coming out with extensions, with widgets, with document providers, with keyboards. It's a lot of stuff, honestly, and it's basically, I would say, the second age of the App Store. This is because these apps are bringing major changes to the way that people work with iOS devices, and it's not just about productivity and text editors and you and me, Stephen, we write on an iPad, and we do this kind of stuff. We do research. We read an article in Instapaper. It's much more than that, and it'll be interesting to see. 2 or 3 months from now, are we going to get tired of extensions because everybody's doing an extension? Are we going to get tired of widgets because we're full of widgets and we don't know what to do with widgets anymore? Right now, this is all very new, and it's new for me that I've been for Mac Stories, I've been trying a bunch of apps, and still today feels so new and weird because this is not the iOS that I used to know.
Yeah, I could definitely see how at some point, like, it could be tiring, like, especially depending on how Apple's system of managing extensions and widgets scales. So in the notification center, you can go and you can tap to add a widget, or you can remove it and it goes back into that list below of possible things you can add. But like, if every app I have has a widget, like, that list is going to get crazy. Yeah. And it's, but that's nothing new for iOS either. There's a lot of places in iOS's history where Apple has a design convention and the sort of the world like comes in, like goes crazy with it, and their design convention breaks because they thought about 24 things instead of 8 dozen things.
I think it just comes down to to being conscious about all the apps that you have, because the home screen has the same problem, right? You can download 200 apps and you don't know what to do with them anymore. So, and this is a point that I brought up in my iOS 8 review today. I've been trying to be extremely careful with the widgets that I use, because if I have to scroll the Today view in Notification Center to find a widget, it kind of defeats the point, right? Because the widgets are meant to just be there, and you open the view quickly and you just dismiss it. If you have to scroll and find your widget, you might as well just open an app with Spotlight.
Totally. So talking about widgets, I think there's some really good examples. Oh, yeah. One of my favorites is OmniFocus 2, where they insert a list of your tasks due for today. So Apple's Reminders app has already done this, right? If you have something due in Reminders, it shows there. You get a circle, you tap the circle, it gets marked as complete. Same thing now for OmniFocus 2. It's not configurable at this point. It's just task due today, but I'm actually okay with that. And for someone who uses OmniFocus 2, basically every working minute of the day, it feels like a really nice way to like get in, like mark some stuff off real quickly. And that's part of their, I think, 2.3 update or 2.3.1 or something. And that's a really good example of like, I bet a bunch of to-do managers do that thing where I have a list of tasks, I check them off, and I'm done.
Yeah, I've been waiting for, because now I use Todoist, and they still don't have an iOS 8 beta version or app on the App Store, but I'm definitely looking forward to being able to complete my to-dos from a widget. I've been using and liking a lot this the Evernote widget, which has shortcuts to create new notes or reminders or a list. And it's nice because there's 5 buttons on the screen, and each button takes you to a specific area of the app. Like if you tap the text button, it takes you to to the creation screen for a new regular text note. If you tap the reminder, it takes you into the Evernote app and into the reminder creation mode and so forth. And I've also,
which is nice because my complaint about Evernote is like it's slow to get in and make a note.
Exactly.
And now I can just pull it down, hit a button, and I'm in.
Yeah. I've also been using this widget from an app that's called ETA. That's ETA. I guess it's estimated time of arrival, and it's a travel app for the iPhone that gives you travel times for your favorite locations. So you can configure a bunch of favorites in the app, and then the top 3 favorite locations are displayed as a widget in Notification Center, and the widget shows you the travel time for that location. And
nice.
If you tap the location, you can open directions into Apple or Google Maps.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
'Cause Apple does a little bit of that now. Of if I have an address on my next event, it will say, "Hey, it's going to take you 14 minutes to drive to Acme Company." But it's also predictive, and so I bet. I mean, right now it's 5:20 p.m. My time, and if I pull down, it says driving home could take about 18 minutes or whatever, and so that's a really good example of like a third party seeing what Apple does and making it better, like standing on their shoulders.
Yeah, with Google Maps.
Maps is fine.
Yeah.
Tim apologized again for Apple Maps in that interview.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. He's like, we screwed up. Like,
pretty much.
You did.
Yeah.
It doesn't know about your house anymore, right? Have we talked about that?
Oh yeah, they still haven't fixed it.
That's awesome.
And I don't know if you've been using it, but there's the Day One widget.
Yeah,
that it shows
nice.
you graphs and like reminders from the past with photos.
Yeah, I like that. It's not one that I think is going to be in my normal rotation, but it's a really nice view of your day one data. I kind of wish it wasn't just in a widget, but
yeah. So one of my points in my article was that this is called the Today view of Notification Center, but many of these widgets and many more in the next few weeks, they are not really about today, right? They're just shortcuts or glanceable information. They're not related to the current day, or they don't depend on time. I mean, Evernote lets you create notes. It's just a bunch of icons. So I think that next year, Apple is going to change the Today name, because it doesn't really make sense that there's Today and then all these widgets. They're not about the calendar or what you got to do today. It's basically the dashboard, only better.
Oh,
yeah,
poor dashboard.
Yeah, I mean, because the point is that you can bring this up in any app, and it's always there, right? Because it's the notification interface that you always use. And you can bring up the Today view on the home screen in an app. You can open the multitasking view and bring up the widgets. And it's also better because they're integrated with the apps that you use. On the dashboard, you install on OS X, you install these widgets, but they're not really connected to the apps that you use. Right? They're like little utilities that are there.
Exactly.
On iOS, these are extensions of apps. So if you tap them, if you interact with them, you can change data, or you can do stuff with their primary app, and that's a huge difference.
Yeah, well, it's even weirder on OS X Yosemite, which of course isn't out yet, but on OS X now you have Today and notifications like you do on iOS 8.
Yeah.
But then you also still have the dashboard. And so like it's clearly this little corner of like utility shortcut type things is still in flux. And I agree, the name is weird. Yeah. And I think that they will sort of bring all this back into the fold at some point. Like I'm shocked that dashboard is still around in OS X, and that's coming from somebody who uses it on a pretty regular basis.
I think that the new name will just be dashboard. Like the Today view will be dashboard, and the old dashboard, your friend Stephen, will go away. I'm sorry, but that's
maybe they'll call it iPod Classic.
Dashboard Classic.
So I think you're right. There's sort of a wide range of usage here.
Yeah.
But what's nice is this really makes iOS 8 feel much more customized. Like, like I use OmniFocus and Evernote heavily, and so those are my top two. And suddenly that area of my phone is not just things coming from other people, but it's things that I've put there as well. And I bet I, at least, and a lot of other people will use Notification Center a lot more now that it's gained this functionality.
Yeah, for me, the result of widgets has been that a lot of shortcuts and actions that I used to keep in Launcher Pro or in drafts, they're gone because I can just use Notification Center now. And I think that the action/app launcher kind of widget is going to be one of the most popular types of widgets. And I do, for instance, there's this new app called Workflow, which is like Automator for iOS. It's pretty amazing. And they have this widget that lets you launch and run workflows from the Today view. And using this app and the widget, I was able to drop a lot of URL scheme based or Python based workflows that I had, because combined, all these aspects, the widget and this new app, which is amazing and that lets you build workflows visually, altogether, they're much better than, editing manually a URL scheme and, writing a script just to take a bunch of photos and upload them to the cloud. Now I can just, use a native photo picker and, just use an extension and upload my photos, and I don't have to write a single line of code, and I can show other people how to do it. And it has an interface. So it's kind of sad because a lot of great stuff came out of the classic iOS automation scene. But these new technologies are just so much better.
Did you say scene? I'm not sure.
Scene,
yeah. Like four people in your
No,
scene.
it's not true. It's at least 100 people.
Okay, so but you're right. I mean, this stuff brings the things that were locked away in editorial or in Pythonista. It brings them to the masses, like in a way that is really exciting. And a lot of that's in the action and share sheet stuff, where I don't have to copy and paste between apps or rely on a workflow. That I can just be in one app and use a little part of another one right there where I am. And to me, that the action and share stuff almost feels more futuristic even than the widgets.
Yeah, definitely, especially when you try something like the 1Password extension.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, the Evernote share sheet that lets you create a note in any app and then knows what kind of content you want to save. So if you're in Safari, it saves a web page. If you're in the Photos app, it saves the photo, because the extensions know the kind of input that gets passed to the extension.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do anything. You just hit the share button and you're done.
The 1Password one is really interesting.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't,
awesome.
if you haven't spent time with it, you have an extension in mobile Safari, and if you have a phone that's Touch ID equipped, you put your thumb on it and it unlocks your 1Password keychain within mobile Safari, right? So you don't have to go out to the 1Password browser. You can do it all right within Safari, which is cool.
Yeah. And if you're a third-party developer,
Chrome.
I know. Oh, Chrome is using a native share sheet on iOS 8, I think.
Yeah, I saw our deceased co-host talking about that on Twitter.
Yeah. If you're a third-party developer, you can do more stuff with the 1Password extension. There's an SDK that you can use to unlock more features. I've been basically every app that I tested had support for the 1Password extension, because iCloud Kitchen is cool, but it's not as full featured as 1Password.
Totally.
Although I gotta say that a nice feature of iCloud Kitchen that is available right now in iOS 8 is that basically if an app has an online service or an online component, and if you have an account for that app, on iOS 8, the app can look into your iCloud Kitchen, and if it finds a login for its service already into your kitchen, it says, do you want to import your saved password from Safari and use it? So that's really nice.
That is really, I had not come across that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really nice. I came across that for Screens, the VNC app from Adobe.
Yeah.
And the new delivery status which I don't know if it's out already. They look into your iCloud Kitchen for the Screens Connect and the JuneCloud accounts. And if they find a saved password in Safari, they ask you to import the password in the app, which is awesome. Yep.
Yeah, deliveries is still telling me that my iPhone is not here yet.
What is
Sadness.
it? Where is it?
It's in Memphis.
Oh.
It ships from here. Just waiting. Yeah, the action stuff, the share stuff is really, really cool.
And the share stuff is going to be amazing for people who use Pinboard, the bookmarking service, because every Pinboard app is going to have a share extension. And it makes life so much easier if you like to save bookmarks on Pinboard. Because before, it used to be that you either use the bookmarklet on iOS, which kind of sucks, right? And or you had to create these kind of workflows with Python or URL schemes. Now all these Pinboard apps that I tested and that are out today on the App Store, there's Pinner with version 3, and there's another one called Pinpoint, and there's an update to PinSwift coming out in a couple of weeks. Everybody's doing share extensions, and they let you save bookmarks to Pinboard directly from Safari or any other app.
Yeah, it's funny. I have as do you, a collection of bookmarklets in Safari.
Yep.
Send things various places, and like I still need those for OS 10, but I don't need them for iOS anymore.
Yeah,
which is just a little sad.
I'm kind of worried because in this past 2 months, I saw developers obviously focusing on iOS 8 betas and widgets and all that kind of stuff. I don't have a single Yosemite beta for a new OS 10 app, which is kind of concerning.
They'll circle. They got another month.
Yeah, let's see.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That's all it takes, right?
If you say so.
Slap some paint on it.
Yeah.
The storage stuff is interesting too. Of course, Transmit for iOS is a huge victory for those of us who use S3 on a daily basis.
Yeah, lucky you.
Or FTP in general. But Transmit's only possible, or partially possible, because of the stuff with storage providers and iCloud Drive, which is like talking about things that break iOS 8 or iOS conventions. I think the storage stuff is right on the top of that list.
Yeah, it's a major change, right? Because iCloud used to be, iCloud exists and you have your documents in iCloud, but actually your documents are into an app's iCloud container. And if you're on the Mac, there's a bunch of different ways that you can access those documents. One is the official way. The other is the hacker's way.
Yeah, the weird folders in your user library.
Now you have this single location that's called iCloud Drive that looks like Dropbox, but it's not Dropbox. It's more like iCloud with pretty icons. But you can also create folders if you want, and you can move documents around. And by the way, you don't have to use iCloud Drive. You can just hit a button and you change your storage provider.
Yeah,
that's super strange for an iOS user who's been using iOS for like 7 years. And the Transmit...
Well, it puts iCloud at the same playing level as anyone else.
And other providers. Because you can switch at any time. So in Transmit's case, you just change the storage location and you're browsing an FTP server or an S3, what are they called? Bucket. And you can just, you can do whatever you want with documents. You can even open a document from Transmit into another app. You change the document, and the changes are saved back to Transmit and into your server or bucket.
Like a real computer.
Like a real computer, right? And instead it's an iPhone or an iPad. So you cannot make fun of me anymore. You cannot make fun of me anymore. That's the best part of extensions.
Not about this. No, I mean that's the thing. Like if I had started a text document in Byword and it was in Byword's iCloud container, and I want to open it somewhere else, it's like, well, too bad. Like it belongs to Byword, and that whole thing started to go away last year with Mavericks and iOS 7 with tags. We could use tags to sort of see each other's documents a little bit, but I mean this really turns iCloud into a much more flexible system. Like I'm still going to use Dropbox for lots and lots of things. But I think iCloud Drive will slowly be creeping in more and more, especially in an app like Byword, where it's sort of like I just create a thing and it knows about iCloud everything's just fine. But I for one am excited about the flexibility of that, and to be able to swap in your own provider in place of iCloud is huge. I hope Dropbox is there. I hope that these other providers have.
There's a OneNote from Microsoft, and what's the business you want? Box. Yeah.
So that's lots of good things going on there, and I think the storage, especially, that corner of this will grow over time, and that because to me it's sort of it's the hardest thing to wrap my hands around of like what's actually possible. But I think that it will get just more and more powerful as time goes on. So we'll talk about keyboards, but first I would like to talk about Iconic, which is a great book. This episode of Connected is brought to you by this photographic tribute to Apple in design. Iconic is a beautiful coffee table-sized book that tells the story of Apple's most beautiful desktops, portables, prototypes, iPods, devices, and packaging. This book is just chock full of stunning and unique photography. It began back in 2009 when the author, Jonathan, wanted to start to photograph and catalog his incredible and mammoth collection of Apple products. It took 4 years. 150,000 photos whittled down into a 350-page book. To go along with these images, there's a collection of essays by guys like Lauren Brichter, Daniel Kotke, Jim Dalrymple, and Steve Wozniak. Now, actually, I bought a copy of this book, I think when it first came out.
Yep. I have a copy too. It's amazing.
So you've been flipping through it, what has kind of caught your eye in this thing?
Well, the photos and the amount of effort that went into documenting Apple's history is just incredible, and it feels like when you go to a museum and you have these books in front of objects, and it's that kind of quality. It's like this is an object that collects all the history of Apple with these beautiful photos and attention to the materials used in a product, and I cannot imagine honestly the amount of work that went into producing this. And besides, the book itself is beautiful, and because it looks great, the quality of the paper is great, but the photos is like an Apple museum in your home, and I'm a big fan of the Iconic.
Yeah, those of us with Apple collections in our home, this book is still impressive. So there's a couple really easy, great ways to get this book. If you want to get the classic edition, you can actually go straight to Amazon. It's on Amazon now, or the book depository, and buy from there. But if you're interested in the Classic Plus or Special Edition, head over to iconicbook.com/relayfm, where you get 20% off. If you are a lover of Apple or design, or have someone you're close to who is into this stuff, definitely go check this out. It really is one of the favorite things on my bookshelf. That's been true for a long time, well before Relay FM was a thing. So check it out, iconicbook.com/relayfm, where you get 20% off. So thank you so much to Iconic and their support of Connected and all of Relay FM. So keyboards. I didn't ever think this would happen. If you had told me 2 years ago, okay, you're going to get extensions and widgets in iOS, I'd be like, cool, that's great. I never would have thought that custom keyboards would make it to Apple's operating system.
Yeah.
And they're here. And there's lots of them, and they're all awesome.
Have you made a keyboard,
Most
Stephen,
of them are awesome.
Have you made a Stephen's keyboard? Because everybody's doing keyboards.
I know. I need to make one with the bubble text that I do on Twitter sometimes.
Please do. I will give you so much money, Stephen, for that.
Let me just learn how to program. So Text Expander is probably my favorite. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
Because I do lots of jokes in Text Expander, and now I can do those on my iPhone.
Okay, so can
awesome.
I do a special edition teachy tip just for this episode?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so listen to this is a nice one, Stephen. So if you have the Text Expander keyboard for iOS 8 and you use email like any other human being on this planet, but if you're the kind of person who likes to use your own IMAP email with with your own server. You don't want to use Gmail because it's Google, and you don't want to use iCloud because it's iCloud. You want to use IMAP, right? And every time you need to set up an IMAP account in the settings app, you gotta fill the server information in the setup process. So what I did was that I finally, after 6 years of iOS, I set up a text expander snippet for my email host information. Now, when I go to the settings app and when I add my accounts, I can just switch to the text expander keyboard. I type the little snippet, and it gets expanded to the full server address, which is boring to type because it's a bunch of different letters
and it's tedious, right? It's like
it's annoying,
periods and letters
every
and
time.
Numbers. Yeah.
So you don't have to switch back and forth between 1Password and the settings app to copy and paste that information. Just use the text on the keyboard, make a snippet, and make setting up email accounts less annoying and less like an animal. And because now you're on iOS 8.
That's brilliant, Federico. So I've definitely done that 100 times.
Yeah.
SwiftKey is another one. SwiftKey has been around, right? This is the one that was in a couple note-taking apps, but now is a keyboard, and it's got some smart prediction stuff. But of course, it has the swiping, which is the big thing.
Yeah, the SwiftKey Flow just for the iPhone. I'll tell you, it's pretty weird, right? Because this is new to me. I unlike our new Italian friend, I never used Android, so I have no idea what gestures wiping to type is like. This is new to me, but the most impressive feature of SwiftKey for me is that in the same keyboard you can type in two languages. So of course I'm typing in Italian and in English. And SwiftKey is pretty amazing at recognizing the language that you're writing in. And so I've been testing this keyboard for messages, for tweeting, for writing blog posts in an editorial on my iPhone and iPad. And it's pretty great, actually, because the predictions, I found them to be much better than QuickType. The keyboard can learn from your writing style if you give SwiftKey read access to your Twitter account, to your Facebook. And there's also Evernote, but I didn't want to give access to my Evernote because it's full of notes that I didn't write myself. So, of course, on Twitter, the SwiftKey keyboard finds my English tweets, and on Facebook, it finds my Italian
your
stuff.
Facebook, I don't understand what's happening on your Facebook.
So it's learning from me, and on many different occasions, I found SwiftKey it was giving me words and suggestions for stuff that I knew I wrote previously elsewhere, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I haven't found. So, what is Apple's called again? I'm sorry. Yeah, I have not found it to be learning anything.
That's exactly what I wrote in my article.
Yeah, like Apple says, and maybe it was in beta, maybe it wasn't hooked up or something, but Apple's like, it learns your tone because you might send an iMessage to your Federico friend different than you send an email to your Mike friend. And it's supposed to learn contextually the sort of tone of voice and words you might use. I have not found that to be the case. However, I found a great game.
Oh,
so this is my
I know what's coming.
This is my tip.
Okay.
It probably destroys your quick type data. But send a text to somebody only using the words that Apple suggests are next. And to really make it great, only use like the middle one. And so it falls apart so quickly because it's just gibberish. It's awesome.
Just the middle one?
I've been playing with just the middle one with like my brother and some friends, and they think I'm drunk. But it's pretty great. I have used the swiping keyboard. Actually, it's called Swipe over on Android, and it's pretty great once you get used to like not typing. It's definitely weird, but once you get the hang of it, you can actually be really fast. And so I'm looking forward to getting back into that. I haven't used Android in several years full time, but I'm looking forward to this kind of making its way to iOS.
So I'm just trying to use your tip.
Oh no.
The fact I can get it right away with the best of the day before I get a follow back on my way home.
Follow back on your way home. It's pretty good. It's fun. You're probably destroying anything it's learned about you, but
I'm about to send you this message, by the way.
All right. That'd be exciting.
So I've been trying this other keyboard called Gifmoji, which sounds like a weird Casey Lee's nightmare. But it's actually a real keyboard for iOS 8. And it's basically a keyboard that lets you... Oh, this is difficult to explain. There's 3 tabs in this keyboard. The first tab is emoji, but they are animated emoji. So it's like the smiley face. You can see there's an animated face smiling, and there's the face with a kiss, and there's little hearts growing bigger and bigger, and that kind of stuff. The second tab is these ASCII artwork that people use for little characters, and the third tab is regular GIFs organized in sections. So there's like winning GIFs, and there's like sad face GIFs. There's a face palm GIFs, and it's pretty awesome because in a single keyboard I can have these 3 different types of stupid internet style messaging, and it's pretty great. And the only problem with this keyboard and with other keyboards too is that it takes a while to load. And so if you have many keyboards on your device, like right now I have 7 keyboards. Every time I switch to one of these keyboards, there's a brief waiting period, like 1 second.
And the button's not always in the same place. Like, have you noticed on Apple's own regular keyboard and their emoji keyboard, the button to switch between keyboards is in a different place. Yeah. You're like, what you doing there? Like, that should be the same place on all of them.
And also, you know what happens when you install too many keyboards?
Your phone just explodes?
No, you have to scroll the list.
Oh my
God. So basically this is also one of the other points that I wanted to bring up. To switch between keyboards in the Apple keyboard, you can tap and hold the globe icon to bring up a popover, right? List of your keyboards. Yeah. This popover is not supported by third-party keyboards. You cannot tap and hold the globe icon to have a list, so you can swipe on the list and switch quickly. You can just tap and rotate across keyboards. And however, in this popover, if it gets too long, you gotta scroll. But to scroll, you don't have to take your finger off the screen because otherwise you choose a keyboard. So you have to move your finger to the bottom or the top and just guess that it's going to scroll. And also the predictive setting, it's at the top of the keyboard list. And to activate it, you gotta just select that toggle and release. It's the interaction in the screen is really weird. And it makes me wish that Apple had a better keyboard settings area. Because the globe icon is really confusing. And I hope that in the next version of iOS, they're going to let developers display the little pop-up to switch between keyboards, because it's much better than just, tapping the globe multiple times to switch and switch and switch.
Yeah. I think as an example, they built something that people are going to use in a more robust way than they planned. But there's all sorts of things like custom keyboards can't do, like secure text input, which I get. I don't want the guy who made Gifmoji keyboard to necessarily know my passwords, but I would like to be able to opt into that.
He's a really nice guy, by the way.
Yeah, that wasn't personal. It was just where my cursor was in the Google Doc. So it's just a little weird that Apple's keyboards can do a lot of stuff and other ones don't. And when I say weird, that makes sense. That's a very Apple thing to do, but from a user perspective, it's a little jarring. I got to go back to this one to do that, or I got to be over here to do this. And I really foresee myself only having 2 or 3 of these things long term. It's fun to play with them today, but in a year, I'm only going to have 2 or 3, I think, that I rely on, and because of the limitations Apple's put in place.
Yeah, for me, it has been more difficult to get used to complete keyboard replacements than using, utility-focused keyboards. such as like text expander or the GIF emoji thing, because this is quite strange, because a keyboard that just wants to replace the Apple keyboard has a higher like learning curve, because I gotta use that every day. And after 7 years of the default keyboard, it's really difficult for me to get used to it.
Yeah, because like, I mean, even the text expander one, like I'm in it only to fire a snippet, and then I find it more comfortable to use the Apple one.
Yeah, there's this new clipboard manager for iOS 8 that's not available today. That's going to come out in the next few weeks. It's called Clips, and by the same guys that made the Dispatch email client for iPhone. This one is amazing, and I'm using it all the time. It basically, it's like the clipboard feature of apps like Launchbar or Alfred on the Mac on iOS 8. And so I can copy stuff, I can save multiple items into this clipboard manager, and then when I want to paste all these items in a row, I can just switch to their custom keyboard and just paste everything. It's going to be amazing, honestly. I'm kind of sad that I couldn't publish a review today.
Yeah, that sort of thing too. We made the joke that like this makes iOS like a real computer, but like I have a clipboard manager in OS 10. I use Alfred for that, and it's like it saves my rear end more than I want to admit.
Well, obviously, there's going to be limitations on iOS still, because it's not like OS 10 yet. But it's interesting to think about Apple slowly opening up iOS, but doing that in a way that is still more secure than the Mac. And maybe there's of course, there's pros and cons about that. But I kind of like this new Apple, doing these new things, but still they're secure. And like for keyboards, you gotta grant access to web features. Otherwise, keyboards cannot communicate with the cloud. And or I don't know, like for this clipboard stuff, apps are still not capable of monitoring what you type and copy all the time. And so I do like that Apple is bringing, this kind of new integrations to iOS, but still in a way that's different from OS 10, because it looks like they have learned from their previous experiences with power users on the Mac, and now we can do more things on iOS, which makes me happy, and it makes me wonder. Can we start talking about iOS 9 today?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's just start that rumor mill now.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, a couple years ago, starting with like 10.7 Lion, the iOSification of OS 10, and that definitely has happened, but it's been more features than sort of like underlying structure. Yeah. And we see that iOS, I think, in the last, definitely now, but even the last couple of years, has moved much closer to the Mac, and the Mac has moved towards iOS. And as an old guy, I think that's great. But I agree. This is like new stuff, is new territory, but Apple's going about it in a way that respects users' privacy and it continues to make the platform as secure as possible. And I think all this stuff is great, and I'm excited to see what developers do. Like as much fun as today is, like in 6 months or in a year, the stuff that developers will be able to do is really encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so refreshing to see all these new apps and during this summer, right? And the results on the App Store today. And today there's probably a lot of excitement, and people curious to try all these new apps, because it feels like the early days of the App Store again, because everything's new and everything's great. But I want to see, like, after the holidays, right? After the new iPads and after another Apple event and after Yosemite, how in everyday life these new features are going to, to play out for regular people. Because are normal people going to know about share and action extensions? Are they going to know about, you can edit a photo for Instagram with the Instagram filters without actually opening Instagram. You can switch your document providers and you can load files from Dropbox or OneNote in any app. Are people going to know about this? And I think that a huge part of this will be the new Tips app from Apple on iOS 8 that sends you notifications to learn how to use your devices and how to get more out of iOS on an iPhone and iPad. I think that Apple has some explaining to do to regular folks. They need to tell people how to be more productive on iOS, because so many times my friends tell me, "Oh, all the things you can do," and they look at my screen, right? All the things you can do when you know how to use an iPhone. Because most people just go to the App Store and use Facebook and Instagram and Safari and Mail, maybe, and Messages, the basic apps. But people want to know how they can do more, because they're jealous of the people that can use an iPad or an iPhone for serious tasks. And now that this stuff is possible, not with scripts or workflows or URL schemes and other incomprehensible stuff for normal people. Now that this is possible, I think that Apple should tell users, hey, you can do this now, today, with iOS 8, and you should upgrade because you can do this and this and that. And it's going to be interesting to see, if the new features in iOS 8 can take developers until WWDC, or if the limitations that we mentioned today are going to be a problem after the initial excitement is over and developers are going to start complaining again. It's also nice. It's also curious to think about iOS 8.1, which is supposed to come out before iOS 9, of course, but also either this fall with the new iPads or early next year. And if Apple is really doing a new multitasking mode for the iPad, if you combine that with extensions and with document providers and with iCloud Drive, the iPad could be profoundly transformed as a device, as a portable computer. And it's funny to think about that. Like you said, Stephen, there used to be people who were saying, OS X is becoming like iOS. And imagine if Launchpad becomes the new Finder. And when you boot a Mac, the only thing you see is a grid of icons. And now iOS is becoming more like the Mac, but still in a new way. So it's an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, but you still can't send your heartbeat to anyone yet. So
so that's a bummer.
Call me when we can do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for today. Got anything else?
Well, I wish. As I say this, I hope I'm still alive. What else? I think it's been really fun to try all these iOS 8 apps. I think there's lots more coming because I know of developers who couldn't submit their apps due to bugs and iTunes Connect problems and other crashes, the memory problems with the iOS 8 GM. So there's a lot of new apps that haven't been released today, but they are coming soon with amazing new features. And I look forward to reducing the amount of coffee that I drink every day.
That's fine. The shaking is fine. It's fine. If you want to find the show notes for this week's episode, you can find them online at relay.fm/connected/5. Our dearly departed co-host is iMike on Twitter, IMYKE. Federico writes at macstories.net, and you can find him tweeting at Viticci, VITICCI. You can find me at 512pixels.net and at ISMH on Twitter. Until next time, goodbye.
Arrivederci.